Creatine's relationship with sex hormones is frequently brought up, and almost as frequently misunderstood, sometimes as a reason to expect benefits, sometimes as a reason to worry. The reality is considerably more boring than either narrative suggests. Let's start with what the research actually shows. For testosterone, a handful of studies have found modest increases in total testosterone, or dihydrotestosterone, in male subjects after creatine loading. The most widely cited finding, a 2009 study in South African rugby players, showed a roughly 40% increase in DHT during a loading phase. This sounds substantial until you see the absolute numbers. DHT went from approximately 1.3 nanomoles per liter to 1.7 nanomoles per liter. Both values are within the normal physiological range for adult males. The change is statistically detectable but clinically and practically inconsequential. More. This finding hasn't been independently replicated with similar magnitude in the subsequent 15 years of research. Several later studies examining creatine and testosterone found no significant change. The biological mechanism by which creatine would stimulate testosterone production isn't established. Creatine doesn't interact with the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the control system for testosterone production. It doesn't stimulate luteinizing hormone release, doesn't interact with androgen receptors, and doesn't upregulate the testicular steroidogenesis enzymes that produce testosterone. The most likely explanation for the occasional positive testosterone finding is straightforward. Creatine's training quality enhancement produced a more powerful acute hormonal response to exercise, higher post-workout testosterone from a harder session. That's a training effect, not a pharmacological effect from the creatine itself. For estrogen, there is no credible mechanism by which creatine would affect estrogen levels in either direction, and the research reflects this with consistently null findings. This has a practical implication for women concerned about creatine affecting their hormonal health. There is no evidence it does. For both sexes, creatine's performance benefits: more training volume, better phosphocreatine buffering, reduced muscle damage, improved cognitive resilience, operate through mechanisms that are entirely hormone independent. The sex-specific research on creatine shows something more interesting than the hormonal narrative. In several studies, women appear to show stronger cognitive responses to creatine supplementation than men. And physical performance improvements are similar in magnitude when expressed relative to body mass and muscle mass. Women are an underrepresented population in creatine research. Much of the early literature focused on male athletic populations. But the evidence that exists consistently shows creatine is as effective and as safe for women as it is for men. The sex hormone narrative around creatine is mostly noise. The underlying mechanism is sex-independent, and the benefits are available equally regardless of which hormones you're running. There's a deeper reason why the sex hormone research on creatine is so consistently null, beyond just the absence of evidence. The body has highly precise feedback systems governing sex hormone levels. Testosterone is regulated by the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis through a negative feedback loop that's sensitive to small changes in circulating testosterone. If exogenous supplementation of any non-hormonal compound were reliably raising testosterone, the axis would detect the increase and downregulate its own production to compensate. This is why testosterone replacement therapy suppresses endogenous production. The feedback loop responds to the elevated circulating testosterone by reducing LH and FSH, which reduces testicular production. A creatine supplement that genuinely raised testosterone pharmacologically would trigger this same feedback mechanism. It would require either a very large effect to overcome the feedback or direct interaction with the feedback axis itself. Neither is plausible given creatine's mechanism of action. This feedback argument is a useful framework beyond creatine. Any supplement claiming to naturally boost testosterone without affecting the HPG axis feedback system is claiming something that doesn't fit how testosterone regulation works. Meaningful and sustained testosterone elevation requires either providing the hormone itself, stimulating the pituitary to produce more LH, or directly stimulating testicular steroidogenesis. All of those interventions have known consequences that extend well beyond a simple performance enhancement. which is why creatine, which does none of them, sits in a completely different category. Creatine does none of these things.